weekday. Don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick to the lines. Whispers from afar. We know who you are. Windows to the stars. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. Don't be surprised on the weekday. Read between the lines, read between the lines. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Lost it, told lies. Whispers from afar. We know who you are. Windows to the stars. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick to the lines. Whispers from afar. We know who you are. Windows to the stars. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. Don't be surprised on the weekday. Read between the lines, read between the lines. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Lost it, told lies. Whispers from afar. We know who you are. Windows to the stars.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. And now the words hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. And I fill my heart with joy and let me sing forevermore. 'Cause you are all I've longed for, all I've worshiped, you know, like a dove. And now the
The inclination angle for simulation of the lunar gravity condition is 9.5 degrees from the horizontal. Zero gravity is produced with a horizontal attitude. This support is provided in the Langley simulator by a series of slings and cables attached to a lightweight crossbar supported from an overhead trolley unit. The trolley is moved along a monorail track so that it stays directly over the test subject as he moves back and forth along the walkway, which is parallel to the track. The desired gravity level is obtained by adjusting the displacement of the walkway from directly beneath the track. The following scenes illustrate the operation of a working model of this simulator and illustrate the ability of one test subject to perform a number of tasks in the simulated lunar gravity condition.
In order to show a continuing comparison of locomotion at both lunar and Earth gravity conditions, the camera was oriented to make the subject in the simulator appear to be in the vertical position, and a split frame camera technique was employed. For Earth gravity tests, vertical jump distances of about 2 feet and a duration of 1/2 second can be obtained. For the lunar gravity condition, the subject can jump a distance equivalent to about 14 feet with a duration of 4 seconds. However, the subject has difficulty in maintaining balance throughout the jump because of small amounts of residual angular momentum that are not a problem for the Earth gravity condition.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me know what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. And I fill my heart with joy and let me sing forevermore. 'Cause you are all I've longed for, all I've worshipped, you know, like a dove. In other words, please be true. In other words, in other words, in other words, I love you.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. In 1/6 gravity, everything would weigh 1/6, or 16.7% of its earth weight. In other words, a 180-pound man would weigh a mere 30 pounds. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to strip away some of the bullshit that NASA's been shoving down your throats for years. Writers were speculating on the athletic abilities of men on the moon a long time before the space program and Apollo. They based their calculations on 1/6 gravity because that's what the scientists told us the gravity on the moon would be. And the public was anticipating some of these spectacular athletic feats when astronauts explored the moon. Do you remember seeing any? None were ever performed, ladies and gentlemen. There just weren't any. And you say, well, they were weighted down with these big, giant, heavy suits. I got a bridge. You want to buy it? You may remember the televised pictures of astronauts moving around on the moon's surface. If so, we challenge you to recall any extraordinary feats at all. Because in all actuality, ladies and gentlemen, there were absolutely none. Zero. Zilch. Zip. Nothing. In the November 1967 issue of Science Digest, an article appeared by James R. Barrie entitled, "How to Walk on the Moon." In it, Mr. Barrie predicted that men would be able to make 14-foot slow-motion leaps, perform backflips, and other gymnastics just like professionals, and be able to easily move up ladders and poles with their arms, not even having to use their feet. Another prediction was given in 1969 by the writers of U.S. News and World Report in an article entitled, "U.S. on the Moon, Look It Up." And they said, with gravity on the moon only 1/6 as strong as it is on Earth, a home run hitter in a lunar baseball game could drive a ball well over half a mile. A golfer's drive from the tee would sail clear over the horizon, out of sight. You wouldn't be able to see where it landed, even if you wanted to. See, the height an object will rise in a gravitational field, ladies and gentlemen, depends upon its initial velocity. And if an object had the same initial velocity in 1/6 gravity as it had on Earth, it would rise 6 times as high. If the initial velocity of the object were doubled over its Earth velocity, it would rise 24 times as high. And if tripled, it would rise 54 times the Earth height. Imagine the golf tournaments in such an atmosphere. A man jumps vertically by bending his knees and then flexing his thigh muscles to full extension. Try it yourself, right where you are. Get the feel of this so you'll know exactly what we're talking about. You see, when he does this, it propels him off the ground with a given initial velocity that can be measured. And if an astronaut were to jump vertically in 1/6 gravity with the very same effort expended on Earth, the initial velocity would be greater than on Earth. Therefore, the astronaut would go more than 6 times higher. And we haven't even gotten to these suits yet, so don't get ahead of me. We're going to cover that, folks, using NASA's own figures. You see, for the purposes of this broadcast, a conservative approach is taken, and I always do that with anything that we talk about, simply because I know that the wolves are out there ready to jump. We take a conservative approach in determining the relative jumping ability of astronauts in 1/6 gravity versus Earth gravity. A complicating factor, folks, is the alleged weight of the spacesuits and backpacks worn by the astronauts. Now here's where the fun begins. You see, NASA claimed, it's their own figures. I didn't make this up, and you can check yourself. NASA claimed that the gear weighed 185 pounds. Let me repeat that so that there's no misinterpretation. 185 pounds. Now this is a terribly oppressive weight to carry on the Earth. But folks, it would be no problem whatsoever in 1/6 gravity. That is, assuming that the astronauts weighed 185 pounds and their gear weighed the same. And these are the NASA figures, and the astronauts, all of them, weighed pretty close to that figure. The total combined weight, ladies and gentlemen, in 1/6 gravity would be only 62 pounds. Now just ruminate on that a little bit. If the astronaut weighed 185 pounds, and his entire suit, all of his gear, weighed another 185 pounds, the equivalent combined total weight in 1/6 gravity would be only 62 pounds. And I'm here to tell you I could do amazing things if I weighed 62 pounds anywhere at all. But we didn't see any of that, did we? You see, this is still only 1/3 of an astronaut's body Earth weight without any gear. Are you beginning to understand? Therefore, the astronauts should have been able to jump vertically far higher than they could on Earth without any burden. And you remember when they were tooling around in that little car and they were spinning their wheels and the dirt was flying up, making a rooster tail? Well, folks, that dirt didn't fly up very high and it didn't stay up in the air. It came down really quick. And according to statistics, dust in a 1/6 gravity atmosphere. In fact, an atmosphere only 2% as dense as Earth's atmosphere, that dust should still be floating around somewhere, shouldn't it? But it didn't. How are we going to explain this? How does NASA explain it? Very simply, folks, they don't. They can't. They never could, and they never will. The idea of 1/6 gravity, folks, presents a major problem in explaining how the astronauts really performed compared to how they should have performed. You see, the difficulty in jumping can in no way be attributed to spacesuit bulkiness. However, a substantial lunar gravity would create problems. And why would they lie about the gravity? And why would they continue to lie about it even unto this day if the gravity was not the 1/6 Earth's as they have stated? Why lie? Why lie, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we don't really know unless they really didn't go to the moon.
Okay, I'm talking with Bill Kaysing, and Bill Kaysing is what you might call a pioneer in this whole issue of getting at truth and reality, and specifically in the area of the Apollo moon missions, what happened and what didn't happen. And when the module set down on the surface of the moon, the amount of propulsion that would have been required to do that, and it leaves no cloud of dust, no crater.
Right. Having seen hundreds of rocket firings when I was employed by Rocketdyne, I know that the jet of the lunar module lander, the lunar lander, would have created an enormous crater. It would have scoured the moon's surface. It would have tossed up rocks, sand, everything, and created a crater maybe so large that the entire lunar lander could have sunk into it. After all, we're dealing with a 10,000-pound thrust engine, which is pointed directly at the surface, lowered into the surface, and yet, if you look at pictures of the lunar lander on the moon, there is no disturbance whatsoever under the lunar lander's rocket.
And no dust deposited in the pads, the cup-shaped pads at the bottom.
That's another good point. Dust would have been blown 6 ways from Sunday and would have landed everywhere.
And then the famous scene, which has been played over and over, where they are landing, they're setting down, and you're hearing the astronaut talking through it.
Oh, that's a good point. I let's say, became aware of that only recently, that here's Neil Armstrong talking about landing on the moon with a microphone, and yet he is sitting practically on top of a rocket engine that is putting out sound levels of about 140 or 150 decibels. Now, we know that that is absolutely impossible to overcome that sound level inside the lunar lander with a normal human voice.
Eagle, we got you now. It's looking good, over. Roger, copy. Eagle, Houston, after yaw around, angles, S-band pitch, -9er, yaw, +18. Roger, you're a go to continue power descent. You're a go to continue power descent.
Altitude now 21,000 feet, still looking very good. Velocity down now to 1,200 feet per second.
You're looking great to us, Eagle.
Give us a reading on the 1202 program alarm.
Roger, we got you. We're going at alarm.
Good radar data. We're now in the approach phase. Everything looking good. Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over. Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Copy. Alarm.
Altitude 1,600. 1,400 feet, still looking very good.
700 feet, 21 down. 33 degrees. 100 feet down at 19. 1201. 1201. Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go. Altitude, velocity, light. 8.5 down. 220 feet. 13 forward. 11 forward, coming down nicely. 200 feet. 4.5 down. 5.5 down. 60 seconds. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. Good. 40 feet down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 4 forward. 4 forward. Drifting to the right a little. Good. Okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
And of course, this brings up the subject of the death of whistleblowers. Men like Gus Grissom, who was burned to death along with Chafee and White.
He went pretty open with putting a lemon on
Yeah, he was going to give an interview about what he really thought about Apollo. And as you say, he hung a lemon on the command capsule on the day that he was murdered. And we should also look at Scott Grissom, his son's evidence that a secret switch was installed in the capsule to ignite the fire that killed Grissom, Chafee, and White. We could go on for quite a while about the death and injury to people that have pursued this Apollo hoax subject very diligently.
They went to a NASA spokesman who was Brian Welch.
Oh yes,
and
right.
They asked him about some of these anomalies.
Right.
You recall what he said about some of the things they were asking him?
He tried to dispute everything that the Apollo hoax advocates brought out. But the interesting thing is that about a month after he gave this interview, he was dead.
That always kind of puzzled me because he was at least trying to hold on to it, right? So, do you think they would have actually killed him just because he didn't do a good enough job? Or?
Yes, I think that's what happened. He didn't do a good enough job. So they killed him as an example to other people who are defending, like Richard Hoagland. Hoagland obviously is a fake, and he's an employee of NASA who on many occasions has tried to discredit me and my associates.
Join us now on a quest for the truth to the moon. In this film, we shall not only prove beyond all reasonable doubt that many of the official NASA images of lunar exploration are fake, but we shall also examine the motives for the biggest lie put before the world. Why did NASA repeatedly fake lunar images and photographs? Why did NASA stage lunar expeditions which did not happen? The answer will surprise you.
Clear the launching area.
NASA spent gigantic sums of money during the 1960s, but most of it was spent on the ground, not in space. Huge American corporations, many of which were manufacturing hardware for the military, made gigantic profits designing space vehicles and, more importantly, life-sized models of spaceships and even huge stage sets resembling the lunar surface. Someone in NASA had realized that after taking billions of dollars from the American people, if they couldn't make it to the moon, they would fake it to the moon.
Obviously, if you're going to somewhere that nobody has been before, you need to have a simulator which recreates that environment as closely as you can. If you're going to the moon, you recreate the surface of the moon. And here we see a section of the lunar surface created. It's about 30 foot high, 30 foot long, 35 foot long. Scale is given by the two people standing in front of it. There were plenty of simulation exercises, but the point is, and should be taken into account in virtually everything that is discussed with the Apollo program, 400,000 people may have worked on the program in total, but none of them had a need to know more than his own job required. The people who were making the rockets didn't know what the people who were making the spacesuits were doing, and because they had no need to know about that. Their job was to make the best models and the best simulation of the lunar surface that they could. And if we come up to this picture here, we see the three scales on which these models were built. We have here the whole moon as one unit. It stands about 20 foot high. We have here behind it a section of the surface of the moon. You'll notice it's curved. And here we have a more detailed section of the lunar surface.
What you're saying is that the images which we're told show a camera pointing out the window of the lunar module as it's coming into land on the moon could well have been filmed previously using these large-scale models.
That's right. It could well be that what we are looking at are films of realistic models. We have no means of knowing if they were actually taken on the lunar surface, or whether what we're watching is part of the simulation exercise and the training exercise. And you'll notice here on these models there is a camera track. A camera starting at this end, coming down here, would approach the moon, or appear to approach the moon, and become ever closer towards it. This is a simulation rig that was built. This is the command and service module of the Apollo program. And you'll notice that the window here looks out onto a block here. And there's another one here. They're curved. These are the screens onto which the lunar surface was projected as the craft made a simulated approach towards the lunar surface.
Is what we're seeing a mixture of fact and fiction?
It is fact, it is fiction. It's mixed together. It's hard to separate them until you examine it closely. If a spacecraft is in deep space, the only possible explanation for a light seen through the window of the spacecraft is the sun. It's the only bright light in space. If it's not the sun, then it has to be some other artificial light, which implies that that particular image is possibly fiction.
Could the footage which we see of the limb approaching the moon be filmed in a TV studio?
It was filmed in a TV studio. There's absolutely no doubts whatsoever about that. And the way that this film was created was by the use of models. There's nothing secret about the models. They exist. You can go and see them today. The models were very lifelike, very realistic. There is one that is a life-size model. It's in Flagstaff in Arizona. It's 2 miles long, and it's an exact replica of the Sea of Tranquility. The photographs were used to create from those images the replica of the Sea of Tranquility, so that if it was flown over in a helicopter, it would appear as if it was a spacecraft approaching a similar area to land. So yes, all the scenes of the lunar surface were filmed on Earth.
Tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the earth and the moon. The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the earth and the moon.
Hey Chris, it's Katrina from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. We all say hi. Astro YYZ here. Anyway, as an amateur astronomer, I'm interested in knowing what astronomical objects can be seen from the ISS, given you have so many lights around you, lights and machines. And is there anywhere dark you can go on station where you can look out and really get dark adapted and see what's out there?
Yes, sort of like a little kid leaving home. Most of our glances are back towards Mother Earth, but we do have windows that face the rest of the universe. And I spent some time looking at some actually yesterday, looking at one yesterday, and remarking on actually just your question that the sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
The sky is a deep black.
The sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
The sky is a deep black.
You can't see the constellations because the sky is just so alive with stars.
The most unexpected thing, I think, was the blackness of space. Most unexpected thing, I think, was the blackness of space. When you look the opposite direction and you see how dark space is, I mean, it's the blackest black, and you realize just how small the Earth is in that blackness.
And that when I look out at the stars and I see, so many stars and planets and so many stars and planets.
The sky is almost white with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
And what you see is an immensely deep blackness.
There with the world right there, and then when you look the other way, it's the whole universe, and the blackness is a palpable blackness. It's not just dark, it's forever.
The sky is a deep black.
And what you see is an immensely deep blackness. A blackness that it's like a black with texture. It's like a black, sort of like black velvet, but without any shininess to it at all.
You can't see the constellations because the sky is just so alive with stars.
How dark space is, I mean, it's the blackest black, and you realize just how small the Earth is in that blackness, and that was a real surprise to me.
And we have to realize that in space, without the intervening atmosphere, the heavens are 10 times as bright, stars 10 times as numerous.
And what you see is an immensely deep blackness.
Billions and billions of stars, and you can see it. In fact, they're so numerous, it's very difficult to pick out the constellations you and I see here on the ground.
A blackness that it's like a black with texture. It's like a black, sort of like black velvet, but without any shininess to it at all.
Some of the stars have colors we don't see here on the ground. So you see these pastel colors, light yellows, light pinks, light oranges, even light red ones, and light blue. There's all kinds of colors.
An immensely deep blackness.
It's not just dark, it's
White with the light of the universe, with the uncountable number of stars.
When you look the opposite direction, and you see how dark space is. I mean, it's the blackest black.
I live in Colorado, and you get up in a clear night in Colorado, up in the mountains where there's no light, and you can see all these stars. Well, multiply that by 1,000. That's what it's like in space.
It's not just dark, it's forever.
And that when I look out at the stars and I see, so many stars and planets and so many stars and planets.
You can see the stars.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
It's not a black void. The sky is a deep black.
There's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
An immensely deep blackness.
You can see the zodiacal light.
Whoa.
Those are amazing. Right before
the lights of the zodiac.
The lights of the zodiac.
Now, I would be the first one to admit that this is a lot of circumstantial evidence. Nothing is concrete proof that we did not go to the moon. But when you add all these things together, that's when you need to be able to trust your intuition, trust your brain, trust your own eyes to make a decision for you, not just what the scientific community says, because I will tell you they are wrong. I mean, how do you believe that NASA lost all the footage from the original moon landing? Following a Freedom of Information request, NASA admitted they lost all the original video footage from the Apollo missions. That's insanity. We have images like this, which if you've watched any of the old Apollo 11 or early Apollo docking and redocking, all that stuff just looks like it's done in a simulator with black background. Well, start looking around and you'll see these projection machineries. So hopefully you can read some of this stuff that I cannot read as it's playing in front of me now. But you can see this is a projection sphere as well, or projecting a planisphere. And these are all from actual NASA documents. This is a star field simulator projection. So I'm hoping you guys will realize at this point that I don't care what science says. I don't care what the geniuses of the intellectual community have to say. There's just too much damning evidence in my mind. I mean, look at that. Isn't that exactly what you see on those old films? This is just too much damning evidence for me just to keep letting them get away with it. You would not need all this detail, the redrawing of the moon. Would you need that if you're going there? You got this photo here again. No tracks behind the rover. Pretty self-explanatory. These things were staged and set up. I'm sure you've seen this image 1,000 times. There's no way that's real. Have you ever actually looked at the LEM? Take a look right here. I don't know if you can see closely. This thing is black construction paper with masking tape. I kid you not. Look carefully. That's a cardboard box. It's not even close to anything near scientific, and yet we let NASA get away with this stuff. Look at that. Do you think that flew to the moon and then took off from the moon? Come on, guys. So these are the kind of things we need to look at, and if you're able to take all this information and say, yeah, we still went, email me, say so, let's chat, because there's just no way. So, till next time, this is Jeranism telling you we didn't go to the moon. I promise you. And I would definitely retract my promise if NASA gave us any kind of evidence that led me to believe in any way that we've been there. And there's just no way. Humans haven't left low Earth orbit. They've never been more than 200 miles from the Earth. So for them to tell us all these lies and keep going with it, I think it's obvious they're trying to hide something. And we need to do some investigation to figure out what. Or demand that NASA prove it. NASA, you could put a camera on the moon this week and have it filming the Earth. How about for this coming blood eclipse, the blood moon eclipse that's coming in later this year? Why not show us this eclipse from the view of the moon? You seem to do everything else just fine. You can show the sunset from Mars, but you won't show us these little things, which would be just send an HD camera to the moon. Have it show us where the landers are. Have it show us where the flags are. All these tools, all this equipment, all this gear. How about the moon rover, the buggy? All those things could be shown on a 1080 HD video camera, and all of a sudden, nobody could say the Earth is flat anymore. It'd be impossible. Nobody could say we never went to the moon anymore. It'd be impossible. That's called proving it. And if I were a scientific organization and people questioned my validity, I'd do everything in my power to prove myself and not just keep taking money from people and expecting them to believe me. If it's true you went, fantastic. Prove it. I'll be the first one to make a video saying I was wrong. NASA is a stand-up organization, stand-up body of scientific knowledge. I'll be the first one.